Give me a nod when you're ready. Shooter's ready. Stand by.
Hey everyone, welcome to the 3GIQ podcast. I'm Matt Gunlock, your host, and I'm here with my co-host, Frank Gow. And so this episode is just going to be Frank and I talking this past weekend. Well, so it was, February 3rd?
I believe so.
Yeah. So February 3rd, we went down to North Carolina and shot the Zoo City local match. No, February 4th.
The
4th.
Yeah.
So we went down and shot the Zoo City local match down in Franklinville, North Carolina. And, you know, as always, it is a great time. One thing I think Frank and I both kind of agreed upon is we drove down. Frank left his house at 3:00 in the morning, picked me up at 4 in the morning. I woke up 15 minutes before the pickup time. And then we got there, we shot the match, and then we came right back that same day. You got home at what, like 10 o'clock at night? 10:15? 10:30?
Yeah, so it was almost a 24-hour, about 19 hours on the road shooting and then back.
Yeah, so we both agreed next time we're just going to stay in a hotel the night prior. We didn't do it this time because, well, I had to do adult things and do my day job. And then that night before the match, I found myself loading some 9mm ammo in my garage in preparation for the match. Most people say you shouldn't be doing that right before a match, but you know what? I'm very limited on time nowadays. But it worked out. My pistol ran pretty damn good. The ammo ran pretty damn good, and it was accurate. But what we're going to start out talking is kind of the gear that we used. Frank is starting his endeavor into the open division, and me, I'm kind of continuing in TAC Ops. So, Frank, why don't we start with you as far as your rifle, what you have on it, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, sure thing. So I got a Criterion barrel from you. I had like a Daniel Defense 14.5 barrel before, so upgraded to a 16. I got the Ultradyne comp on it too. That helps significantly. I haven't messed with the bolt carrier mass. I think that might be the next step, because I hear that helps quite a bit. But otherwise, like I got JP captured silent spring in there. I have an offset Arasaka mount with a Trigicon RMR Type 2 on it, and I'm using the Vortex 1-10 Razor. So like all that, it's perfectly fine in terms of a open rifle. It was more of my shooting that held it back.
So I guess, why did you go with a 16-inch barrel instead of a 14.5-inch?
So some of the further shots are out to you're gonna see a significant drop in barrel muzzle velocity with the shorter barrels. And I for the longest time all my ARs were like 11.5s and like 12.5s, and I think I got like really almost below 11 at one point. And I realized that you're not gaining a whole lot by going shorter barrel, but you are losing a lot of velocity and consistency, not necessarily accuracy, but the ability to predict exactly how much that bullet is going to drop. And then also the drop off is not as severe with a longer barrel.
Okay. Yeah. No, I agree with all those points. And for me, like I always like the 16-inch barrel. People are like, oh, well, why not use an 18-inch? Well, it really depends on the type of match that you're going to be shooting. I think the 16-inch is the best of both worlds. You can still drive the rifle as hard as you need to drive it in a bay. And you can still reach out and touch targets out to 4, 5, 6, 700 yards. And I've done it with the 16-inch. 18-inch nowadays, I just don't see the benefit of it personally, and that could just be a personal preference. Yes, an 18-inch could be softer shooting, but if you're shooting your rifle right, you're still going to be just as fast and just as accurate. So like for me, I'm using a double star, 3GR Go Fast Red rifle. It's a beautiful rifle. I absolutely love it. The recoil's where I want it to be. It doesn't have an adjustable gas block, and I really debated whether or not I wanted to change between an adjustable gas block or have a fixed gas block. And at the end of the day, I said, you know what? I'm going to run it as is. I'm going to see how it shoots. And Double Star does have an adjustable gas block, but I was like, in my head, I'm thinking if I put an adjustable gas block on there, that could just potentially be one more thing that fails on me. So let me run it as is, see how everything goes. And quite honestly, I'm loving the rifle. When I zeroed it a couple weeks ago, back in January, uh, and I say a couple weeks ago, that's prior to recording this. This is going to come out, probably a month before I actually zeroed the rifle. When I zeroed it, every single round at 100 yards in zeroing, we're touching each other. It is an incredibly accurate rifle, and I love everything about it. It's a good choice rifle, and I'm not just saying this to try and sell people on it. I'm saying it because I truly think it. Um, you
So
know,
what I would add to that, Matt, is there is a lot of peace of mind in having a reputable manufacturer put together your rifle. I put together my own rifle. I installed the barrel, I torqued the barrel nut. I put an adjustable gas block on it. I adjusted that gas block. I basically went until it was reciprocating like correctly and feeding the next round, and then I pushed it up a few more notches. So we'll see if that holds after time. I have had issues with the adjustable gas blocks before. I've also had issues with my own gunsmithing before. So yeah, just some of the
yeah.
options are out there.
And I'll be the first one to say this is the first time I've actually owned my own manufacturer made rifle. Everything else that I've had, even shooting on a team, I used my own rifle that I built myself in. I I have had problems in the past where, a gas block would come loose. It happened in the middle of a major match, and it pissed me off to no hell. And so you're right, the peace of mind of having a rifle that's been purpose built for a specific task, and knowing that it's not going to fail me, it gives me a lot of peace of mind.
Yep.
Now let's go into pistols. I know I was shooting my 2011, and that was a purpose built 2011. And it's a beautiful gun. Every piece on that pistol was hand fitted. Um, I have recently changed from having a small front sight to having a fat front sight that covers the entire rear window of the rear sight. It's different for me, but I've found that I am a lot faster and a lot more accurate with it, with stuff out to about 25 yards. Jason tends to throw one target or two targets out in a match where you're shooting a target, a 12-inch round plate at like 50 yards.
Mhm.
And I would say that's about the only place I really struggle, and it's going to kind of really come down to me testing and training on my own to really kind of determine, do I want to keep using a fat front sight, or do I want to just keep running what I have?
Yeah. Do you find that with the thinner front sight that sometimes you're being a little nitpicky about your sight picture, or
I am.
there's a tendency to over confirm?
Yes, yes. And I feel with the fat front sight, I can have more of a target focus than a sight focus. And as long as I see that fat front sight in the rear window, like I'm I'm legitimately just pulling that trigger as fast as I can as soon as I see that sight line up or that target in my view. And I have very few makeup shots on targets that are 20 yards and in, and I feel fast with it. Sometimes almost too fast, but you can never be too fast.
It's true. So for my pistol, I shot my Carry Optics Shadow 2 this time around. Um, I just wanted something that was reliable. It also gave me a chance to test out the double alpha max holster, which the retention was pretty good for 3-gun. I'm happy with that. But I've honestly, like, everything outside of USPSA, I've kind of been messing around with a lot of different guns. You saw for the 3-gun at PCSL, I shot my Glock 19. It's fine. I plan on shooting that for the RPG I day and night. I plan on shooting that for tactical games. The shadow is something I can always go back to. And then the open gun is, the open gun is what the open gun is. But for me, pistol is probably the piece of equipment in 3-gun that I'm least concerned with, because the type of pistol, the format doesn't really matter. I know I'm going to do just fine on pistol. And in fact, we'll get into this later. We'll talk about the match. It was a concerted effort for me to stay away from my pistol because I knew that would make up for some of my some of the discrepancies I had in rifle and shotgun.
No, I agree. And I especially agree with you on, it's really not the pistol that makes a difference. Yes, a 2011 platform it's going to enhance you to a certain level, but I always believe, the old fucking saying, it's the Indian, not the arrow. But it's partly true. It's a person who's pressing that trigger and that is running that gun. That's what's really going to make that difference. If you can shoot a pistol, it doesn't matter what gun in your hand that you have, you're going to run it fine. It's just how familiar are you with that specific platform that you're running that's going to really make the difference. And quite honestly, like, I love my 2011 platforms. That's what I'm going to keep running. It's I have two different 2011s. I love them both. And one of them is right now getting outfitted with a slide cut so I can put an optic on it. Um, whether I shoot in a carry optics division or a modified division, since that's the fucking craze of 3-gun. Yeah, we'll see. But I specifically got that one cut for tactical games, since anything besides elite division, you can use a dot on your pistol.
Right.
Um, so let me ask you something. What makes a good open pistol? Since, like, you're the open connoisseur here. I don't know much about open. I've shot a open pistol before, but I've never really kind of dissected what makes an open pistol really good.
I mean, there's really no limitations on it. So if you want to go full open, I suppose, uh, given the amount of movement that you're doing, so here I shot my actual open gun for PCSL 2-gun. And obviously that pistol runs really well. 38 Super Comp is really expensive, but it's extremely flat shooting and you can absolutely tear with it. The problem is that it's really freaking heavy, and you have to contend with whether or not you want something that heavy flapping at your side when you're running around with your rifle or your shotgun and just moving around the stage. And also, like, with my open gun, I just I don't trust any of my race holsters enough to run it, and like, just I don't want to have to worry about my holster as I'm sprinting. I just want to be able to trust it. It held up fine for PCSL 2-gun, but there's one stage where I definitely went pistol first because I was like, I don't really want to mess with the retention at all. But to answer your question, the majority of open shooters that were on my squad, Buddy Brad and a few others, they were running, it seemed, predominantly staccatos with a slide ride red dot.
Okay. Back to the holsters real quick. What kind of holster do you run typically with your open pistol?
I'm running an Everglades magnetic roller holster, MRH for short, and it's so when it's unlocked, it's going to come out of the holster extremely easily. Like, you stand up on your tippy toes and that thing is going to start easing out of the holster. You have to basically flip a latch down in order to keep it secured, but then is part of the problem. Like, that needs to be part of your draw stroke if you want to end up drawing that after coming out from your rifle or your shotgun. So it's not really conducive. Like, with the holster for the Shadow 2, I could just rip that thing out of my out of the holster as I was moving forward, like after having dumped my rifle and my shotgun. It's just a little extra with that race holster.
Okay. And I think here, this next thing we're going to talk about, shotguns.
Yeah.
You know, talk to me about your dissonant arms.
Yeah, so I keep saying it's new to me. It's a used dissident arms KL12, which for those of you that don't know, it's basically converted Vepr done by Dissident Arms. They import it and they basically kit it out to be ready to run in competition. So it's a box fed shotgun. It came to me with like 3 20 round mags and a couple 15 and 12 round mags. I put a Trigicon SRO on it. It's just one of the old SROs that was formerly on one of my backup Shadow, is now on my Dissident. There's really not much else to it. There's a big fuck off compensator on the front, adjustable buttstock, and there's also an ALG AK trigger in it that's extremely soft. It's extremely fun to run. I had some issues with mine. We'll get into that when we start talking about stages. But I know for a fact the shotgun is not holding me back. It's me holding the shotgun back.
Yeah. And so in terms of tac ops for those listeners who really don't follow three gun, or you're on the military side of the house and you don't know a whole lot about shotguns, because here in the military we really don't fucking learn or shoot shotguns much. And the only ones you're really familiar with probably is the Benelli M4. So I've been through, I think I'm on my third shotgun since I started competing about 9-10 years ago. I started out with an FNSLP Mark II, I think it was, in FNSLP, and that was a piston driven shotgun. I will say it was probably the lightest shooting shotgun I ever owned, but it was also extremely heavy. And so it's kind of a balance. You want a heavy shotgun that shoots light, that's gas. Or do you want something that's light that's going to give you a little bit more kick? It, and quite honestly, it really comes down to um, what your stance is and how much you can mitigate or manage that recoil. I'll be the first one to say, and FN doesn't make these shotguns anymore, but whenever I bought that shotgun, it took a lot of extra money just to get that gun to run. If you talk to guys like Bob Osbeck, he'll be the first one to tell you, like, my shotgun was basically a bolt action shotgun. It only wanted to eat really expensive ammo and didn't want to eat anything, anything that was, what we run in three gun, like your target loads and stuff like that. Anything below, it wouldn't even run 13. It barely ran, 1350, 1400 feet per second rounds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was pretty shitty. Um, I ended up fixing it up and getting it running reliably, but then I went overseas, came back, and while I was overseas, on my last trip in 2017, I ended up buying a Mark Roth Signature Series Benelli M2, and I tell you what, that was a beautiful fucking gun. I spent about 2,500 for that gun at the time, and it was a workhorse. It just ran. It was easy to load, really good shotgun. Had a dovetail mount at the back so I could shoot slugs at distance targets, stuff like that. I ended up selling that gun mainly because during that period of time I wasn't really competing much in three gun. I was doing more bullseye. I was setting the USPSA team up at the time on the shooting team, and so it just kind of sat there. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna sell this gun, repurpose the money into something else that I'm gonna use, and then when I get back into three gun, I'll get something else. And that's what I did. And so now I'm running a Stoker M3K. And honestly, like, between Stoker, Benelli, um, and the FN, the Stoker is probably my most favorite gun, and it's also the cheapest gun.
Mhm.
It already comes with the magwell, or the loading port, fully open, but I take a Dremel, I polish everything up, I open it up a little bit more, and it's a really good gun. I'll switch springs out, I put a different hand guard on it. I basically made it my own gun, and um I've had very few problems with that gun since I got it. It's a workhorse. It shoots. It's accurate for a shotgun. I know where my holds are for slug targets because and three gun, it's not as bad as what it used to be. Now it's like you'll have a slug target out to, at the furthest distance, 100 yards. Back whenever I first started three gun, they would get stupid every now and again. They would throw a slug target out at 150 yards, and it's just like, what the fuck, guys?
Yeah.
Um, you'd have to be incredibly surgical with that shotgun to hit targets at that distance. But I love my Stoger. It's been running really well.
Nice. And
Um,
now you have two of them.
yeah, I do. I have your one that you bought, but then you decided I'm just gonna go open.
So that didn't quite happen in like the span of like a couple of weeks. I bought a bunch of three gun stuff and then I tore my Achilles and I just didn't get to use it for like a year. And then and then I ended up getting into open. But yes. Right sequence, there's a bit of time lapse there.
So open, and for those who don't know the difference between like tac ops and opens, like we just kind of explained the guns and all that kind of stuff very quickly. We didn't go into all details. Like open, basically you're allowed to do whatever the fuck you want. You can use whatever you want. You can use bags, you can use tripods. If you have offhand targets and you don't want to shoot that target offhand, you can throw a tripod out there and engage the target with the tripod as long as it's in the shooting area. um do you I know you're very new to three gun. Do you have any extra accessories at this time?
Um, I mean, I used Buddy Brown's tripod on a few of the stages. Other than that, not really. I mean, um, yeah, I basically focused on having guns and equipment that ran. And then we'll see. So like, I don't think three gun is going to be my focus of effort. But it is, as a co-host of this show, and since we have interviewed so many people in the three gun community, it is something I'm going to continue to participate in. Um, so we'll see about all the other doodads, but it can get very expensive very quickly and honestly kind of insane.
Yeah. You mentioned Buddy Brown. How was it shooting with him and having him on your squad?
Yeah, it wasn't just, I mean, it was he was great. You can tell he's been around for a while. He'd do this funny thing where like we would show up to the stage and we'd start walking it, and he'd be like, "Oh, I guess we just start walking the stage before we even read the stage brief." And like he said that like for 6 straight stages. So yeah, it was good to have him around. Shot with Zach Smeltz and some of the other guys who are also shooting open, and it really like gave me a frame of reference on like how fast you could really go, and I didn't really go that fast. For a variety of reasons. But yeah, no, it was a really good crew. I would have liked to be on your squad, Matt, but it was also kind of cool to, get exposure to other shooters and see how they approach things.
And I agree. I think it would have been great to be on the same squad. The problem with being in this sport for so long is so many people, and you just want to you just kind of want to rotate around different squads each match you go to. But I think at the same time though as well is we're both hosts for a podcast, so it kind of allows us to split our efforts and see many different people and get many different varying opinions and thoughts, and in a sense spread our message but also see what they have to say.
Yeah, I think it worked out.
Yeah. So going into the Zoo City three gun match that we shot on February 4th, we'll start. And I've been in many different, we'll start at the very top from the match brief. I've been in some match briefs where I am looking at my clock and I'm like, is this ever going to end? And to the point where I go grab a lounge chair and I sit down for about 45 minutes while I listen to somebody talk about themselves or each and every stage. Like they're giving you each stage brief before the match even starts, and it's just like, dude, you're taking up time here. Let's fucking shoot. But at Zoo City, it's very different. Like Jason's very concise. He's very friendly. He's very open. And he's just telling you what you're going to see very expeditiously. And he talked to us about Battle for the South and what to expect there. And one thing I will say is, if you're near North Carolina and you want to prepare for Battle for the South, one of the best ways to do it is go shoot one of his local matches, because you can guarantee what he is doing at a local match is he's testing props and he's testing, ideas for major matches prior to him putting them on the ground, because he wants to prove everything. From the brief perspective, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I like that he basically only said what he had to, which was, hey, we're not doing a jungle run, and we basically supplemented it with a different base stage. And some of the movers, he was specific about the way that you had to reset some of the movers, the Death Star and the Polish plate rack specifically. They had very specific reset procedures. He also mentioned that I think either him or Buddy was going to come by for the first squad that was on there, which was our squad, and come by and show us how it was going to work. Otherwise, you could kind of tell that it was like the usual characters, like everyone knew each other pretty well, some inside jokes, that kind of thing. But yeah, efficient, to the point, and yeah, it wasn't a sermon, which is good.
Yeah, I mean, let's go back and rewind to Thermont 2 gun. No, we won't go. We won't.
Yeah, it's not necessary that your match director is comfortable talking in front of people, but the problem with people who are nervous talking in front of people is that they tend to just find something to read and just read everything. Like, you run into guys like that in the Marine Corps too. So yeah, with Jason, it definitely just felt like he was having a conversation with everybody.
Yeah. All right. So match. We'll kind of we're gonna go stage by stage. So with stage one, that was the first stage I started on. I really liked it because one of the things I found myself in 3-gun struggling with at one point is offhand targets, small offhand targets. And he really tests what you're uncomfortable with. And it's really satisfying whenever you can, hit those offhand targets with rifle on the first or second shot, and then just continue blazing through. And he gives you the options. Like, so on this stage itself, it had 2 small, offhand small poppers in the back, auto reset poppers.
Yeah.
And then it gave you the option of using shotgun or pistol with the knockover steels that were out there.
Yeah, so there was a small rifle steel popper, as you said, far back left and far back right, dump barrels in both places. I don't know how your squad ran it. Almost everyone started with rifle far back right, shot the rifle steel, shot out on paper all the way to the left, shoot in on paper, shoot the static steel in the back, dump. And then from there, it really differed on whether people went for the rifle or the shotgun. Which did you go with?
I went with rifle and pistol. I just felt more comfortable. I figured I'm going to spend more time loading my shotgun than, shooting as fast as I can. And I was comfortable enough just taking those down as fast as I could. And, I want to say my stage time was about 39 seconds raw time. I did forget to shoot a target that was off in a corner that I didn't see, but, Jason has a tendency to do that shit.
Yeah.
But I went as fast as I could, and I felt comfortable. Looking back at the video, my video, I felt that I spent too much time, acquiring sights on that other popper on the left side.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I hit it on my second shot, but I just felt like my preparation to take the shot took a little bit too long, so I gave up some time there.
You mentioned it to me, but you started the day off wearing your rubies, and then you swapped off of them. Was that part of it?
That was on, what was it? One, two, three. That was stage 3 that I swapped off because Jason paints his targets pink.
Yeah.
And so with the rubies, like I couldn't even see those targets with the rubies on, so I had to switch off to different set of sunglasses. I will be purchasing some Hunter's HD Gold at some point. Just because I want to be able to switch between the two based on the setting. And I think that's really the purpose on why he has rubies and golds. That way, if you're in a situation where targets are, disappearing on you because of the color scheme of them, you can switch over to another color scheme glasses that's going to make them pop out more.
Yeah, I think another thing to consider is like just the composition of like the berms, the backgrounds, because for me, the steel targets were just sinking into the berms, the pink steel, and it was really hard for me to quantify my reticle and the target. Trying to get that to pop out. So still a fantastic product. It just wasn't right for that situation, like you said. What I like about stage 1 is that the back left and back right gave you opportunity to shoot in and shoot out. But also as you're moving forward, right, there was an array of like paper and steel that gave you the option to shoot on the move a little bit, which I thought was good. And then at the end, you're just pinging pieces of steel. So I went rifle to shotgun and then finish up on paper with a pistol.
No, I figured you'd probably be running your shotgun a little bit more because you wanted to get comfortable. It's a local match, so practice what you're not good at.
Yeah.
And I mean, we'll go into it more. I tended to do that, and then I got to a point where it's like, fuck, I'm just fucking this all up because I'm not used to shotgun right now.
Yeah.
And I just, you know what? I'm gonna go right back to pistol.
Yeah, for sure. It was interesting watching some of the other open shooters because with paper targets, right? Usually you'll take those with rifle and pistol, but if you want, you can load up slugs in your shotgun and you can shoot at them. Now, with the open shotgun and having it be box fed, it becomes interesting because it's not like you're going to burn through a bunch of birdshot and then have the slugs at the bottom of your magazine. You're more likely to swap to another magazine, shoot that round of birdshot at a steel plate, and then start going for the paper targets. And then you just have to remember how many slugs and how many birdshots are in those magazines. My problem was that my slugs weren't cycling correctly. I found that out, and we're going to talk about the long range stage. Straight up just didn't work for me, so I didn't really try that. But you want to talk about stage 2?
All right, so stage 2 is more of a lateral movement. There wasn't really any forward movement. Everything was just laterally. And again, there were some, I would say there were about 10-inch rounds that were in the back that you had to shoot offhand, maybe 12-inch rounds.
That was the rifle plate rack, wasn't it? Or
yes, there was.
Oh, you're talking
rifle.
You're talking about
rifle
static steel. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so there
right.
was the rifle plate rack in the center, and then there were 2 static steels on each end. And I started there in the center on the rifle plate rack. Moved to the right. Shot the static steel, and then paper. Ran to the left, shot the static steel, paper. And then there I actually went to shotgun, and it was there I kind of realized, wow, I'm really fucking out. I'm really out of practice with the shotgun. It's like I completely fumbled a load 4, and then I shot 4 targets. I was trying to load 8. I loaded 4, fumbled the second load, then grabbed 4 more rounds, threw those in, and I shot a total of 4 shots, dumped the shotgun, and then went straight to pistol. I was just like, I ate up so much time. Like I probably ate a good 15 seconds just doing that right there, unnecessarily,
Yeah. Yeah, I forgot a piece of steel on the left side because I didn't lean far enough left. So it's interesting because like it's not like I'm not used to this kind of match. This is what Sir Walter does. They love to hide pieces of steel and open targets in awkward leans. It's just, I think I just wasn't as diligent in my preparations. Usually with the USPSA stage, I count, how many targets are there, and make sure I find every single one of them. I honestly wasn't listening to the stage brief. I was just kind of walking the stages. I regressed pretty hard, is what I'm basically saying.
Yeah, I found myself doing much of the same. I didn't necessarily listen to the stage brief the way I should have. And I just kind of did my walkthrough, missed a target that I should have seen. And, I think I did that on 2 stages where I just completely didn't see a target that was supposed to be there and didn't shoot it.
Yeah. My plan was start rifle right side, hit the static steel, shoot paper, run to the center, shoot the plate rack, paper that's like tucked away, and then switch to shotgun and then go left to right. I used Buddy Brad's tripod to get to the plate rack, and that obviously made that easy. But what I didn't account for is that freaking tripod was in the middle of the shooting area. So I went back with shotgun. The entire time I was shooting the middle like plate array, I was like, don't shoot this fucking tripod. So you see me, I'm like boom, 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 and then I have to like break contact and get around it to get the last plate. So I don't know if the tripod really helped. And like you said, it has to be in the shooting area, and it just takes up a whole lot of room. Now, the next guy that went through, I can't remember who it was, but they basically like shot off the plate rack and then just like Spartan kicked the tripod out of the shooting area. I was just like, it's not my tripod. I'm not going to do that. So yeah, it wasn't a great stage for me.
No, I mean, that was a story of this match for, I think, both of us.
Yeah.
Stage three had a lot of movement because
Yeah.
you started forward in an area, you had, 2 static steels in the back. And this is where I had to switch out my glasses because the targets were just completely washed out with the background. And hit paper, static steel. You could have either shot with pistol or shotgun. I chose shotgun. There was an array of clays right in the center with a couple static steels, burned through that. And then, you go to the far right side and you're attacking with pistol. And this is where like there was a 50-yard, I want to say it was about a 50-yard piece of steel that you have to hit twice if you're shooting it with pistol. It made no sense to run all the way over to the other side with rifle. So I shot it with pistol, and I think, I hit it on the first shot, and then I think it took me about 5 more shots before I finally hit it again. And this is me kind of dissecting. Do I want to have that small front sight, or do I want to have a big fat front sight? And I'm just going to have to, in practice, go outside and set a target up at that distance just to practice and recreate so I can fine tune whenever I see it again.
Yeah. So the whole shooting area was shaped like a U.
Mm-hmm.
Did you started on the left?
Yeah, I started with the left.
So this one really got people because if you started on the left and you looked all the way to the right, there was a plate that was hiding behind a barrel. And
Yes.
our first 2 shooters completely forgot that plate. Similarly, if you go all the way to the right, there's a paper target on the left that you would miss if you weren't specifically looking for it.
Mm-hmm.
So you said that Jason like does a lot with the geometry of the bays, and that's kind of part of it. So there's a little bit of symmetry there, right? Like on each side, there's a gotcha target. And it's easy to remember because the entire stage is symmetrical. However, when you're in the heat of the moment, if you don't adequately plan it into your stage plan, then it's very easy to forget. I actually went right to left. I started on rifle. I went paper, and then shot the static steel in the back. Finished out in the paper, dumped the shotgun, or dumped the rifle to shotgun, and then I started clearing plates. And they had those clays in the center, right?
Mm-hmm.
Took those on the move. The problem was like I had 20 rounds and I counted the targets as like 17 shots. So I knew I only had like 3 makeups, and by the time I got to my last position, I was on my last makeup. My plan was to shoot in on the plates on the far left side and then dump. The funny thing about the open shotgun is a 20-round magazine on a dissonant arms is a huge fuck off magazine. Like it just looks, it's like an elephant tusk. And if you try to yeet that thing into the barrel, it's not necessarily going to go in. So as I was walking in, shot a plate, realized that my bolt had locked back, dumped the magazine out, and then I dumped the shotgun in, went to my pistol, and then finished out. So that meant that I had to take 2 shots. What kind of like you? I basically ran the opposite of your plan. I had to take 2 shots in that 50-yard steal with the pistol.
Somebody was telling me that you could hit all 3 offhand plates from the right hand side, but it would have been a pretty hard lean for that far left plate.
It would, yes, it would have been possible. It's just, it's your comfort level, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's what I liked about, like, I like the stages where, you know, you see an angle and you're like, I could hit that, but could I consistently hit that? Like, I could hit it if me and my buddies were joking and smoking, and they're like, oh, you're like playing the gun equivalent of horse. But in the middle of a stage, when you're in a rush to get to shotgun or pistol and the rest of the stage, it's kind of hard to settle down and like when you're like leaning like that. But that's good stage design, right? Like you kind of give people enough rope to hang themselves if they choose to do so. or they look baller as shit.
Yeah. All right, so stage 4. Yeah.
It's all right. It's we understand stage 4, we understand why you exist. You exist because the jungle run was muddy as shit, and we couldn't do the jungle run.
And yes, and I think it was also, let's test out these props for Battle for the South.
It's correct.
Which is a very important detail. You know, you want to test to make sure that these are going to be working adequately and they're going to present enough of a challenge for the shooters. So, you know, with that, the Polish plate rack, I don't think it's anything necessarily too difficult. He had 3 plates there that were painted red that were no shoots. I don't think anybody on our stage actually hit them. It was just your comfort level. Like I was getting dangerously close to hitting them, I know, because I was trying to go pretty quickly. And I was comfortable taking those shots. And this is what I'll say, you know, and it was counterintuitive to how I usually am. You know, I kind of psyched myself out. Like I saw that spinner target that was probably 70 yards out, 75 yards out. A rifle spinner, 75 yards offhand, because I'm a tac ops guy. I psyched myself out just on that one target. And I'm like, in my head, I started going internal, and I was like, I'm gonna fuck this up. And instead of maintaining some type of positivity, you know, I went out there kind of, you know, already psyched out and not doing so well. But that wasn't the target that hurt me bad. It was, I got the offhand spinner over, no problem. It was that fucking Death Star, you know, and that's all about timing.
Yeah.
And obviously I didn't time it right because I fucking timed out on the stage, and I think that's the first time I've timed out in fucking years in 3-gun.
Yeah. It was a very straightforward stage, but if you didn't execute, and like the whole thing you said about getting in your head, I spent a lot of time going to war on the swing or the spinner. You kind of need to be aggressive on that thing, because as soon as you see the momentum swing in a particular direction, you have to catch that momentum and you have to just throw rounds at that particular part of it. That's the only way you're going to be able to shoot it quickly. In terms of that Polish plate rack, I personally think that the way it was resets with the weights on the ends made it so that some people, and I was shooting like 115 grains, I hit it dead in the calibration zone and didn't knock over. So I personally think that 2 weight plates was a little too much, because I don't think it was calibrated as well as it could have been. And I don't think we really needed all that weight on it. And then a Death Star, I think it's a cool concept. It's just that, sorry, back to the Polish play rack. We had one person. So here's the thing, like if you're shooting it while it's still spinning, like you're fine. It's when it like kind of comes to a rest and some of the inside plates, like the innermost plates, are hiding behind one of those no shoots. We had a guy just straight up just shoot the no shoot just because he wanted to get at the plate, but might have been counterintuitive there. Like probably would have been the same if he just took the penalty. Um, and then the Death Star. Very cool concept. It didn't really seem consistent in terms of, and I know it's supposed to be crazy, but it seems like some shooters just got like absolutely crazy spins, and then others got like pretty stable. But that may just have to do with like which plate you shoot off and which order.
Yeah, I would say probably venture to say which plate you shot off first. I think it because watching videos of other people and comparing it to mine. I know I went straight from hitting that popper, activating it, to hitting the first plate there on the right hand side, which caused a little bit more chaos because I'm
Yeah.
hitting something that's lower and it's going all
Yeah.
over the place. Whereas if I hit something up high,
Right.
it's not spinning at that point and you can just kind of cycle through. So it's really about how you attack it and how it's going to really present itself.
Yep. Absolutely. But yeah, definitely wasn't my favorite stage.
No, me neither. All right, so stage 6, it was my last stage of the day.
Sorry,
Uh,
it's stage 5, right?
oh yeah, stage 5. Sorry.
No,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Stage 5, we started outside the shooting area. He had one offhand popper,
Yeah.
and it was a skinny Sammy. Super small target.
Yeah.
But doable at that distance. It was what, about 50 yards away, I'd say.
Yeah. Yeah. It was small, so it kind of psyched you out. Um, but that was the first thing. So you're standing outside the shooting area and you have to shoot this popper from outside the shooting area before you can step inside and then start shooting the paper. Bunch of paper, like basically inviting you an array of 5 targets, inviting you to shoot on the move as you're progressing. And then the finale was it was a few paper targets, but then it was just a bunch of knockover steel. So a lot of our shooters just did rifle to shotgun. So and some of them shot the last array of paper with rifle, and some of them slugged those with shotgun. How did your squad go about it?
Um, uh, most of us went from rifle to pistol, or no, yeah, rifle to pistol, uh, and then finish with the shotgun. And some people, there were quite a few people that also did rifle to shotgun and then finish off with pistol. It really depended on comfort level and what people really wanted to do. The faster guys went from rifle to shotgun and then finish off with pistol.
Okay. What I liked about it too was just like stage 1, there's the ability to like basically shoot on the move aggressively on his paper targets in the middle. And then at the ends, I just went straight shotgun. Took all the paper and then just went to town on steel. Forgot a steel target again, all
Yeah.
the way on the far left of the final position. But really fun stage.
Yeah, originally I was just gonna do rifle pistol just because after the Death Star, I was like, fuck the shotgun. I'm not gonna, I'm gonna go with my comfort. But then I had a failure to feed on my pistol. And I'll admit my pistol was probably bone dry. Um, so that's why it didn't feed properly. And so I just dumped it real quick and frickin' switch over to shotgun. But yeah, really dynamic stage, a lot of options, a lot of ways to shoot it.
I do have a question for you. So what I found myself planning into my stage plans was I would aim, like sometimes those plates were staggered to where if you aim like at the top of one and you'd basically be able to potentially hit 2 in one shot. Is that something you program in, or is that if it happens, it happens?
So the way I program, if I know that there are doubles there, I'm still going to count each plate as a single plate, and if I get the doubles, I get the doubles.
Yeah.
And but I always look at it as an option. You
Yeah.
know, I don't want to take a chance and then my plan goes to shit and then I'm off track. But if I can get those doubles, I'm definitely going to go because it's less time pulling a trigger and a faster time on the clock.
Yeah. No, I did the same thing in terms of ammo management, but just in terms of like visualization,
Mm-hmm.
I'm aiming at the top of this plate so I could potentially hit the plate behind it as well.
Yeah, in a way, I don't usually aim at the top. What I generally do is I find a position on the stage to where they're kind of staggered to where I can see both, so I can just aim in that general direction. I'm going to hit both plates at the same time.
Yeah. Nice.
And then stage 6, it was my last stage of the day, and it got cold because that sun was going down. Like I think it dropped down to 37 degrees at that point.
Dude, it definitely felt like it was colder than that.
Yeah,
If you were in the shade, it was colder than
yeah, and we were in the shade at that point.
if you were in the shade and you weren't resetting, it was definitely cold.
Mm-hmm.
But what I liked about this, so this was the long range stage, right? They had a bunch of stuff. It was like what 100, 200, 310, 400, right? So like doable shots, but in the beginning, set of steel to the left and right, and one pin.
88, 208, 245, 308, and 395 yards.
Oh,
Yeah.
you hadn't told me 310 and I guess it depends on where you're lasering from.
Yeah.
But yeah, the beginning, like, so you're shooting long range from, I don't know, what would you call that thing? It was like a trailer, basically.
Yeah, you were shooting off like a trailer.
Yeah. But before that, you're standing back in this area. You have steel and paper on one side, steel and paper on the other side. Now, you have to go to pistol, right? Because there's that one pistol target on the left that's like one shot. You have to slug the blue steel on the right side. So this is where it got interesting because I found myself mixing slugs and birdshot. I basically went to the right first, took a shot on the steel plate, missed it, took another shot, hit it with a slug, shot my last slug into the paper, and then started going on steel. That would have worked really well, except my stuff wasn't feeding correctly. So I was basically going bolt action with all my slugs. And I think specifically, it was an issue with the slug rounds. I'm running mine about 300 feet per second faster than running where they're dissonant guns. So I need to fix that. But then going to the left side, you still have a paper target, right? So I did a reload. I did reload into my 12 round mag. Slug. But what I did was I racked out the birdshot. What I should have done was I should have just taken a shot at the birdshot on the steel and then go slug and then finish out in steel. And then go up, shoot pistol. There's a plate rack, bunch of steel targets, some paper, and then you had like a little plate rack to the right for rifle, and then you had those targets you're talking about long distance. You basically went 1-for-1, didn't you? Almost.
Pretty much. I had one makeup shot, and that was at the 200 target. Yeah, but yeah, basically I went 1-for-1 on all of them except that one.
Yeah. I didn't par out, but my time wasn't awesome.
Yeah, I think I shot it in 82 seconds.
Yeah, I was in the low 90s. So
okay,
it's definitely took a lot longer. So I guess what magnification were you at for the rifle shots?
Oh, I went straight 6 power.
Okay, so I was on 10 power, and what I was finding
that's too much.
Yeah,
that's too much.
I realized that. So it wasn't so much like, yeah, you can see the target super well and you can see where your shots are landing. Great. But in terms of like what I found was that I was like, I was shot at the 100. I was like, oh shit, where's the second one? I'd literally like poke my head up, look at it, orient my rifle, and then get back down. And that was taking a lot of time. So these are the things you learn, but I still got through the stage. Okay.
Yeah, so for me, I started with shotgun. My first round I loaded in a shotgun was a slug. That was in the chamber. I hit the paper with slug, hit everything else with birdshot, all the steel, then loaded 4 birdshot, 3 slug, and a bird shot, or one. I loaded 4 bird shot and then one more bird shot with 3 slugs behind it. Hit, burned the 1 bird shot on a knockover, hit the paper with a slug, and then I had two more slugs in there, one for a makeup. Hit that slug target with the first shot, burned the second slug, went to the knockovers, hit those, dumped shotgun. It could have been faster, and I'll kind of go into that here in a second. But then I went to pistol, hit all the knockover and plate rack with the pistol while I was up in the trailer. There was one target. It was probably about, again, 40, 50 yards away, 12-inch round. And I didn't hit it this time. I think a mixture of just exhaustion and being fucking cold. I ended up just shooting the pistol out, dumping pistol, and then we went into rifle, and I basically finished clean with rifle. With that being said, we talked about scope, magnification, stuff like that. Right now I'm running an Athlon Cronus BTR 1-6. It's good scope. It's not a bad scope, but over the past 6 months, I want to say, I've been looking and trying out Friend's Night Force Attacker 1-8. And so I've been through quite a few different scopes in the past 10 years. I've shot Trijicon, they're not bad. I've shot Athlon, I've shot Vortex, I've shot Leopold's, I've shot them all. One thing that really impressed me, and I do prefer a first focal plane optic with the mill reticle. I like mills because my brain understands mills a lot easier than MOA. With an MOA, I find myself having to remember patterns and exactly the aim point I have to, look at on the scope. Whereas with a first focal plane mill reticle, all I have to do is remember numbers in my head, and I remember numbers a lot more, a lot easier. So if it's a half a mil, I know where I have to go. If it's 1.2 mils, I know where I have to go. If it's 2 mils, I know where to go. I can process that a lot easier, and I can just write the mils on my arm if I have to. And the Night Force Attacker is pretty damn expensive. I think it's about $2,700, but at the same time, I look at it as it's a 1-8 first focal plane reticle. That's in mill, which I love everything about it. But the thing that really sold me on this scope is it has a true illuminated reticle. Like the Trijicon does not have a true illuminated reticle. It gets washed out, and when you're at 1 power, you can't see your center dot. You just can't. And I found it slowing me down more than anything else. Whereas with that Night Force Attacker, having an illuminated reticle on a first focal plane scope, that's what sets it apart. And to me, that's it makes it worth the money.
Yeah, there's a lot of other details to optics too. It's the ease with which you can manipulate the magnifications, the quality of the glass, clarity, light transmission. Really, like it's not really a hold fast rule, but in general, like optics are going to kind of cost more than guns in some cases. But it's quality that's well deserved, and it's well worth like if you're going to put an emphasis on something, then that might as well be it. I'd say, spend money on ammo first. But yeah, a good optic is definitely a good investment. I don't know about you guys. We had a lot of shenanigans on the stage. A lot of guys, like, because of the slugs and the birdshot, got it wasn't me, but
somebody slugged a target.
No. That wasn't it. No, someone birdshot at the paper targets on both sides.
Oh,
so
okay.
It's just like every time we go and pace it up, it'd just be like it'd just be like a million tiny holes in it. It was just hilarious. But also just because of moving in between all three guns and going to long range, somebody tried to put their pistol in the large bucket, and
Oh, Jesus.
someone tried to put their dissident in the pistol bucket. And it was just such a funny moment. I forget who the shooter was, but he was like, he was like, he put his pistol down in the big bucket, brought his hand out, put his hand on like the rifle, looked back at the RO. I think it was Buddy Brown. RO was just like, no, like he was talking to a dog, like he was talking to like a young child who knows that he fucked up and needs to rectify himself. And then he went back and took out the pistol, put it back in the right bucket, went back to his rifle. It was just such a funny sequence of events. And that just it just one of the things, and I got an appreciation for how much more complicated Recon is. There's so much more moving pieces. I am used to being done with a stage in under 20 seconds in USPSA, and a lot of these stages were like 40 to 60 seconds. I didn't bring the same amount of mental energy I did to USPSA. I think part of that was just straight up fatigue. You and I got up at 2:15 in the morning. I got to Matt's at around 4, and then we got to we were just going all day long. But it's really not an excuse. At the end of the day, I earned my performance, and mental lapses notwithstanding, you got to do better. And I know better. I've been shooting long enough that I know better, and I just made a lot of rookie moves. But yeah, it was really fun. I can see why you're willing to make that drive, because it's a great group of people down there. But
It's
also,
a family. I mean, everybody there treats each other like family. I haven't been anywhere else in the country where it's like that. Like, everybody gets along, everybody's friends and everything, but there it's legitimate family. Like, Christmas time, I drove down to North Carolina because I got invited to a Christmas party with a bunch of the Zoo City crew. And it was just all of us hanging out. I've shot with some of the guys since I started shooting 3-gun. Like, everybody down there, it's family.
yeah, and I mean, dude, a lot of shooters came from Jacksonville. I'm sure like a lot of shooters are coming from other distant areas as well. Do you know if we made the longest drive? I'm sure someone that came from further away.
Um, well, your drive and Patrick Beckham's drive was about the same distance. Like, Patrick Beckham came from, I think, North Georgia.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a haul. We had to get through all
Yeah.
the Carolinas. So people are coming from very significant distances just to come to this match. And like Matt said, part of it is the friendships, the family, the camaraderie, but also it is a very well put together match. Like the stage design, that I thought was extremely well done. It reminded me a lot of like Sir Walter stages, just in terms of I've always described practical shooting to new shooters as like, hey, sometimes it's a puzzle that you're solving with shooting, and that's what some of these stages felt like. Like there were times to be aggressive, there were times to be technical, there were times that you absolutely had to make that shot, and it was a mixture of all the above, and I really enjoyed it.
So I don't tend to like to compare matches, especially two completely different type of matches. So, last week, you shot the PCSL 2-gun or 3-gun, and then this past weekend you shot the Zoo City 3-gun. Obviously, very different matches.
Yeah.
But what are some of the discernible things you remember? What are some of the differences that you would see? And do you think some of what Jason does at his match can be recreated up in Quantico?
Yes, and we talked to Alex about this, right? At this point, the interview with Alex about PCSL is going to be out. I think the way Jason, in some cases, he forces you to shoot shotgun. In some cases, but for the most part, it's completely up to you. You can play to your strengths. You can work on your weaknesses. But having, like, for example, those far fixed steel. I think on was it stage 3, the one that was shaped like a U?
Mm-hmm.
That far back steel, you could shoot it. It's 2 shots with a pistol, one shot with rifle or one slug with shotgun, right?
Mhm.
Like you could pick your poison. And I think that the choice is it can be intimidating and at times paralyzing, but it's really a beautiful thing. It opens up a wealth of options for how you can run these stages. And you know, the way that shotgun was implemented in that PCL celery gun, and we talked to Alex about this, was the shotgun was kind of shoehorned in. It was like you have these targets that you have to shoot with the shotgun. And I think our point to Alex was like, why not make it a choice? Because when you're shooting with three guns, you're going to be better with some and others. You're going to be more comfortable in certain situations. So why not be able to create stage plans that cater to your strengths?
Mhm.
And I think that was on full display in Jason's stage design.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously Jason has been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
He is seasoned in more ways than one. Uh but you know, he he's surgical with everything he puts down, and he tests everything he puts down. And like I said, he's testing these things for ideas for the big matches. And I think that's what makes it so great. Like, what you're going to get whenever you go to one of his major matches, based off of what you shoot at a local match. And he's never going to be lazy about it, because at the end of the day, he loves the sport, and he does it because it's his passion.
Yeah. If you find a good stage designer, it's like finding a good director, like movies that you enjoy. You tend to stick with that person. You know that that is a source of quality, but that also means that you got to support those people. Go and shoot their matches. And Matt and I drove. We spent 10 hours on the road last Saturday just so we could attend this match. So yeah, and then help out if you can, really, because they're volunteers. And at the end of the day, they're doing it. They're doing it because they're passionate about it. But sometimes that's not enough motivation to keep going and putting on a baller match every single month.
Yeah, but we hope you did enjoy this. Frank, did you have anything else before we kind of close?
Um, I guess did you as I was going through, I'm like, these are things that I need to work on. So obviously, like reloading on the dissonant shotgun is one thing, but the manipulations, like dumping in a barrel, like I was watching a lot of guys that like they basically transitioned a rifle or long gun to their weak hands, and as they were dumping in the barrel, they were already drawing the next weapon out. And I
Yep.
was like, I'm not going to try that because that is something that I want to dry fire before I put into practice. But I'm seeing all these things that guys are doing to shave off seconds and just be more efficient. Um, did you? I mean, you've been shooting this longer, but what are like if you were going to go to another three gun match within like a couple weeks, what are the things that you would be working on dry fire right now?
Shotgun, like straight shotgun reload. Like I fumbled way too many times. Wasted so many seconds. I probably didn't shoot nearly as aggressive as I should have been shooting with a shotgun. Uh, that's the crux of all my problems right now. And this weekend I'm gonna be going out and practicing on the neighbor's range, just pulling out all my steel and just practice. You know, Probably just grab a case of shotgun ammo that I have in my garage and just, shoot 500, probably 500 rounds, and just practice reload, shoot, reload, shoot, reload, shoot, just do different drills. I feel very comfortable with pistol. Now, for the long shots, what I will do is I will put a small piece of steel out at 50 yards and just practice, find my hold, find that trigger press. Because one thing I tend to do, if it's something I don't do very often, but I know I'm going to see it, is I mentally take a note in my head and I'll slow down for that one shot. And I think the one thing I'm thinking in my head for that 1 second is trigger press, trigger press, trigger press, and then I'll let the press go and I'll hit the target. And so that's something I need to get back in the habit of doing.
Yeah, no, well said. But no, I had nothing else besides that.
All right. So we hope you enjoyed this. I know this is kind of different. Hope we didn't bore you with details that you can't actually visually see. We'll put our match videos on our Instagram page for you kind of to look back at, and as we're explaining stuff, you can see it. I know the one stage I didn't have a recording of is stage 5. I'm almost too embarrassed to put stage 4 up there, but for the sake of the podcast, I'll fucking throw it out there. Fuck it, I don't care. Um, but yeah, we hope you enjoyed this. We hope you come out to a Zoo City match. We hope if you're interested, come out to the Zoo City Battle for the South. That is going to be a fucking epic match. One of the things Jason and I were talking about with that is, we a couple years ago is the introduction of like breaching a door with a shotgun. But like for this one of the particular stages, we're thinking of doing a breach into a shooting area, and then breaching out of the shooting area, then climbing on a trailer and having a freaking Jeep Cherokee or something like that, having a vehicle pull that trailer along while you're shooting targets on the move.
Nice.
So me and Jason have been talking about a bunch of different stuff like that to make this the match really good. So we hope to see you out there. We hope you enjoyed this. We hope you come out to more Zoo City matches, and we hope you just go out there and shoot matches and get into the sport, because at the end of the day, it's about getting better for the military guys. It's about becoming more lethal. And if you could, it really does help us out. Whatever listening platform you listen to us on, whether it's Spotify or Apple, please go in there, rate us, write a comment, let us know how we're doing, and we hope you have a good one. Thanks.